You're listening to Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions on product and business strategy. And now, here's your host, Bob Caporelli.
Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies just like yours. Welcome back, strategy creators, to episode 93. This is another good one for you. Of course, before we get started, I want to do a shout out for the company that sponsors this program, the company that I own and I founded, Strategy Generation Company. Go visit us at strategygeneration.com. Learn about the tools, training, workshops, toolkits, all kinds of great things that we can help your company with and provide you with if you're interested in learning more about this subject of product, business, or marketing strategy. So please be sure and go check us out there. So with that said, let's get on to today's question, which of course is another great one. And this one goes, Dear Strategy, how do you make sure there is an effective inner working between different levels in a dynamic strategy evolution? So there's a lot of words there and a lot of interpretations, I guess, that you could have of that question. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to interpret it, and maybe I'm going to interpret it this way because I don't think we've addressed this particular topic on the show before, but here it is. In complex organizations, larger complex organizations, like I believe this one is, there's oftentimes a lot of different groups that will have ownership or partial ownership of a common strategy, especially if it's a product strategy. So some examples of that, if you have a large organization, sometimes you have a global product strategy or product management team that's responsible for product strategy of a certain product line across the globe. But then you might have regional teams that are also responsible for strategy for that same product within their regions. So you might have a regional product manager in Asia, or a regional product manager in Latin America, a regional product manager in North America. And all of those different product managers also own some part of that global strategy. And so this can make the whole thing a little bit difficult to navigate. When I go into companies like this, and I would tell you that the majority of companies that I work with do fall into this category because they tend to be larger, multi-billion-dollar kind of global enterprises, and they all have this similar type of a structure. And when you have this, it's always this kind of fight, right? Of, well, who owns the strategy? Because there's a global product manager that clearly has, global oversight. But then there's regional product managers who will always claim that the global person doesn't really know our region. They don't know the needs of our region. They don't know exactly what our customers are like. So they're creating these global strategies, but how could they do that when they're not on the ground here in our region? And so that becomes kind of a fight. Here's the thing that I always kind of push back on, and I think it's a really important thing to keep in mind. That shouldn't be a fight, right? That's actually an asset when you have that many resources that can be devoted to a singular strategy. It's true that a global product manager may not have complete knowledge of everything that's going on the ground in these regions. But that's the beauty of being able to have product managers in those regions, because you can draw upon those resources to help you create that global strategy. And when all that works really well together and everybody claims ownership of the same strategy and everyone has their part in it, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So the way it should work is that you have regional product managers responsible for those products in those regions. They have a local strategy that needs to tie to the global product strategy. And here's the important thing, there's a global product manager responsible for that global product strategy that draws upon the regional product managers to help them develop and compile that global strategy. That, I will tell you, is where things usually kind of break down. Because when the global product manager just creates their global product strategy without enough attention being paid to what those regional product managers want, then the regional product managers feel like something's being forced upon them by somebody who, by the way, isn't familiar with their market, doesn't know really what's going on. And so that creates tension, that creates problems. And what the result of that is, the regional product managers go one way, the global product managers go another way, and it's complete chaos. So how do you get this done? Well, I would tell you that there does need to be a good amount of face-to-face that happens. If you're a global product manager and you have regional product managers in these different regions, you need to be spending time out there. Now, most of the global product managers that I've dealt with are for, North American companies, to be very honest with you. And those North American global product managers will reside in North America somewhere. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, the amount of times that those global product managers spend in the global regions is relatively very, very small. When I ask, how many times do you go to Asia? Well, maybe once a year. How many times do you go to Latin America? Well, maybe once a year. Maybe once a year. If we're lucky, it's twice a year. But I'm sorry, it's just not enough. It's just not enough, especially if your sales are spread out equally among those different regions or, balanced to some degree. You need to spend time out there. A global product manager's job is a traveling job. Global product managers need to be where the customers are. They need to be where the regions are. They need to be communicating with those regional product managers, with those customers in those regions, learning about those regions. You need to be in those regions 4 times a year, each one of them. And, I know that sounds like a lot, and I'm not trying to say that applies universally to every single situation. Obviously, everyone has different situations, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people take product management jobs and don't feel like they have to travel a lot, right? Or don't want to travel a lot. And the truth is that it's just not going to be very effective. I'm sorry to say. Global product managers need to travel a lot. And that's how you get these things reconciled. When this tension exists between regional product managers and global product managers, it's usually because the global product managers simply are not spending enough time in those regions. So you have to change your workflow. You have to change the tolerance you have for travel. Now, I know that this is kind of a big ask for many product managers because, most of us want to be off the road as much as possible, right? We want to be at home as much as we can be home. But the truth of the matter is, I always look at global product manager roles and other roles as well. And I say, these are highly compensated roles. And there's a reason for that, right? Roles are highly compensated because less people are willing or able to do them. That's supply and demand. And so when you take a job like that, a global product management job, and you expect that you're going to be traveling, 10 or 20% of the time or 15% of the time, which is some of the numbers that I've heard from some product managers, look, you're just going in with the wrong expectations, right? I mean, if you're going to be off the road that much, don't expect to be compensated the way that most global product managers are compensated. You need to spend time in the field. You need to spend time with your customers. Like it or not, that's what the job is. Wherever the product management job turned into kind of a homebody job, that's just not going to be effective. It's just not going to be effective. So, my interpretation of this question about how do you make sure that all of these different levels in an organization are working together towards a common strategy is you've got to communicate. You got to spend time with one another. And that really, in my opinion, can only be done effectively face to face. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, hey, wait a minute, we're in a different world now, right? We're in the world of technology. We're in the world of computers and Skype and, and virtual this and that and the other. And I don't want to sound like an old curmudgeon here because I obviously believe in all of those things. I believe that you can do a lot of great things remotely. And I believe that we are much more connected now than we've ever been with the technology that we have. But I'm sorry, nothing is going to replace face-to-face interaction, especially when it has to do with understanding the inner workings and culture of a region. There is no way that you're going to learn that kind of thing, the needs of customers, the kind of environments they're dealing in, the kind of problems they have, the kind of solutions they need. You're never going to learn that over Skype, right? Or whatever your technology of choice is. It's just not going to happen. So you got to spend time. So global product managers out there, the way that you're going to bring this together is spend time in those regions. When that happens, by the way, you're not going to have to make a whole lot of effort to bring those strategies together. They're going to come together naturally. And I've seen that many times in organizations. And when it happens, these problems really are non-existent. So hopefully that's a helpful answer. If you have a question that you want to be featured on the show, please go to dearstrategy.net or dearstrategy.com. They both work. Go to the website and go up to the upper right-hand corner. There should be an Ask a Question link. You can click on that. You could ask a question for the show. You could also provide feedback, read our blogs, all kinds of things from that site. So please go out there and do that. Again, dearstrategy.net or dearstrategy.com. While you're doing that, don't forget to make time for the plan, and we'll see you back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caparelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.